Man, let's go around sports, man. Let's go around sports. Talk about what happened in the National Football League. Motor City Dan Campbells have done it again. I am. Dan Campbell turned down that A&M job. Good for you, Dan Campbell. Good for you. Don't let them money whip you to go back to that lowly college station. You're building something special in the Motor City. They done it again. The Motor City Dan Campbell fighting Detroit Lions. They need to do a think piece on this. I'm being honest. There needs to be a documentary because we have gotten away from having patience with coaches and teams and building teams and allowing things to come together, coagulate, allowing to gel and the synergy to come together. We get so impatient and we think about, we need it right now. Microwave. Give it to me now. If that don't happen now, we get rid of them. We get the next guy. You just keep you keep this vicious cycle. And Detroit has had this vicious cycle. Barry Sanders has a documentary coming out tomorrow, by the way. When you see this, that'll be today. And he'll kind of go behind some of the scenes of what made him walk away from the Detroit Lions. Megatron, someone who I've played with in college and against him in the league, he walked away. So Detroit has long had this kind of thing where it just didn't do right by football people, didn't do right by the football gods, I guess. And it's been a franchise that has been miserable and putrid for a very long time. And then comes in Dan Campbell. I remember he doing his press conference and he talked about biting kneecaps off and everyone laughed, myself included. We chuckled because we thought to ourselves, biting kneecaps? Ain't even no meat down there. Pause. And you know what I'm saying? Ain't even no meat around the kneecap. That's a gristle. And some of your players probably got bone on bone, so ain't no meat there anyway. But that was a Danology. And we laughed. And we thought, he is a fool. Here is this jacked up, yoked up, dipping from a football player. Now head coach saying he's going to bite some knees off. He'll be out of here in a year. For those of you that seen Lean on Me, when Kid Ray came back to the school to see Joe Clark told Kid Ray, you'll be dead in a year, son. You'll be dead in a year. When Dan Campbell said we're going to bite kneecaps and whatever the hell he was saying, I was like, this coaching career will be dead in a year. You'll be dead in a year, son. Not physically, your coaching career. But what do I know? They gave Dan an opportunity, and he lost. He lost. But they gave Dan a chance to, because what happens in bad franchises, you bring these players in, whether you draft them, you sign free agents, and then they kind of get immersed into this bad culture. Whether they bring the bad culture, but they get mixed in it. And now what happens is everyone expects the losing. No one expects to win. You might have a guy or two who expects to win, but no one expects to win. You have this loser culture. And guys don't know how to win. They don't want to be pushed to win. They really want to just collect their check, get through the day, do the least amount of work as possible, and go. And Dan came in and he weeded those guys out. I'm not saying that's going to happen this way, but a la Jimmy Johnson. When Jimmy Johnson came in here to the Cowboys, he started weeding them jokers out. I know Michael Irvin told me stories. He was like, man, I remember Jimmy came to me and was like, who should be in this locker room? And Mike was like, he got to go. He got to go. He got to go. He don't want to win. He don't want to work hard. And Jimmy was like, okay. Because in order to change a culture, let me take you to the business side of things at times. When corporations come in and they do the merger or acquisitions, or they acquire, another company acquires another company, one of the first things that they do, fire everybody. Fire everybody. Because if I'm taking over this company, then I had to get people to now believe in my beliefs. And if someone has been in this company 5, 10, 15 years, they've settled in the ways of whatever that culture was. And if that company is either on the rise and I bought it, or it's plummeting and I bought it, if it's plummeting for sure, I'm firing the folks the hell why it's plummeting. Now, I may come back and hire a few folks after we fire everybody, but most of the time you fire everybody, bring in your people that know your culture and are able to adapt to the things that you want done. They gave Dan Campbell the opportunity to do that. And yes, they lost a lot. But then you saw last year, you were like, boy, Detroit's still losing, but it wasn't bad losses. You was like, oh, they a piece or two away. Ooh, they lost that game by 3 points. Oh, another one by 3 points. They lost in the last second field goal. Ooh, they were so close. And there are steps to winning. And they've allowed Dan to bring in his own coaching staff. Shout out to Aaron Glenn. Shout out to my old teammate Ben Johnson. And players that fit his culture, that fit his way of doing things. And now you're taking a team last year who had a bunch of small margin of error losses win. The same game that they would have lost a year ago, because of the culture change, the coaching changes, the way that this group has now gelled together, they're winning those games. They were down against a team that I packed up and a player that I packed up, Justin Fields and the Chicago Bears. They were down 2 scores, 3 scores with 3 minutes left. A year ago, they would have packed themselves up and said, But they believe in each other and winning and the culture and the message and the coaching so much that they said, we can win this game. And they go down and score. And they get a stop. And they go down and score. Then they get a 6, and they win the game. And the way that they've allowed Dan Campbell to come in and change the culture in Detroit needs to be documented. Needs to be shared at one of those hotel lobbies, conference rooms for $99 with a free box lunch. They should make franchises come in, especially those who don't know how to, the Clevelands of the world, the Jacksonvilles of the world, and some others. They should make them have to come in, colleges, high schools, $99, you get a free box lunch. And the documentation of how you allow a coach to come in, change the franchise, give them time, and watch the change happen. Detroit's a team right now that is seriously looking up and saying, hey, if some things, happen on the other side with Philadelphia, we can have a number 1 seed. We can have a first-round bye, and all of our playoff games be at home until we get to the NFC Championship game. That's very much so. Very, very, very much so. So got to give a ton of credit to Detroit, man. Shout out to all the Detroit Lions fans. Your basketball team stinks to high hell, but at least you got football. The Detroit Pistons are bad. Kate Cunningham even said it. He said, we're bad. They suck to high hell. Detroit they suck bad. At least you got the Lions. So shout out to all my Detroit folks, my Michigan folks, my Motor City folks, the Fighting Dan Campbells, the Detroit Lions that are all over the place. Congratulations to you. You have something to cheer for. Your football team, legit, real deal, for sure. Dan Campbell has figured it out. I'm not saying they're going to the Super Bowl, but you have something to cheer for. You do. You absolutely do. Don't miss this moment to cheer this team on if you got a chance. All right.